Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you had a great weekend. This is now Tuesday, and we are continuing our texturing series of creating scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator using free resources. Last time we did a texturing using a aerial photograph and showing how you can map different parts of a photo to different surfaces or faces of your model. Today we're going to talk about PBR textures. If you remember that stands for physically based rendering, and basically what it is one texture will have many layers, and each one of those layers dictates the color and how light is going to interact with a surface, okay, or a face. We kind of touched on a little bit of PBR when we put our smudges on our building, but we're going to really take a look at it today, doing some applying of a texture to our door shed of the hangar. Okay, now there's some edits, some things that I'm going to do different before I put this live into my airport at Canton, Akron-Canton Airport. I don't really like 100% that do I like the look of this, so I'll play with it later on. But today I'm going to introduce you of working with PBRs. Some of you will probably already know a lot of this, but that's okay. Some of you don't. So here we go. We are going to work with a open source software. Open source doesn't necessarily mean free, but in this case, it is free. And it's a Photoshop clone called Krita, K-R-I-T-A, and the link to download that software is in the description of the video, plus a link to all the other free software that I use. All right, so we're going to learn how to kind of show you how PBRs work and how to apply them to your model. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're going to use. So I'm going to bring this up, and I've gone to one of the sites to download a PBR texture, and I have links to all different types of sites as well in the description of where you can get free textures. And I've downloaded one called Corrugated Metal, and it's a 2K image. That means it's 2048 by 2048. And when you download a texture, it's going to have different layers. And most of the case, they're going to be in PNG format, which is great. You can download the JPEGs, but you're going to want to convert those to PNG. But anyway, this particular texture comes with a AO, which is Ambient Occlusion, which maps shadows. Comes with a base color. Now, the brown base color, I used this a long time ago in another building, so I painted one kind of brown. But you'll get a base color with your texture. It might be colored like this, or it might be a grayscale. It doesn't matter. But how you and I would actually see it in visible light, okay? That's what the base color means. Sometimes they come with a height map or a displacement map, which is one and the same. Tells you whether it's up or down. We're not going to be dealing with the height map, okay, or displacement. That's something that's probably a little bit more complicated to work with. It's not hard. It's just more steps to make it work right. And there's plenty of videos of working with displacement, okay, for Blender. All right. So do a search and find those. You can go to Guru, Blender Guru. You can go to Blender Bob, all that kind of stuff. You'll also get a normal map, which is this magenta, bluish, purplish image here. And that is going to dictate how light bounces off of your object. Okay, so the magentas will be bright, and your darker colors will be darker, something like that. But it's the direction that the light is reflected off of your material to give a 3D look to it, and you'll see that when we build our model. You'll also get a roughness map, and that is a grayscale where I believe I get a 50-50 chance of getting this right, where the lighter, the whiter the color is, the rougher it's going to be. The blacker, the smoother it's going to be. Okay? And then you'll get also a metallic layer. Now, this is not, this one didn't come with metallic, but I was playing with a layer. That's why I have one right here. But this one just happened to be a fail, so so I can actually select that and actually delete it because I'm not going to use it. Okay, all right. So anyway, a PBR will come with an AO, base color, height, a normal, and a roughness, and sometimes they'll come with a metallic layer. All right. So that's what you get with a PBR. Another thing to understand about a PBR is that the AO, the height, the roughness, and if it has a metallic, those layers are always a grayscale 16-bit image. All right. And it's really important that you understand that anytime that you're working with a ambient occlusion, height map, roughness, and metallic, that it has to be a 16-bit image. All right, grayscale. All right. Obviously, it also needs to be divisible by 4. Okay, in terms of the size. So 2048 is divisible by 4. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Blender real quick. So let's minimize this. And we're going to select our door shed. And now we need to UV unwrap it, just like we did in the other video. Okay, in the last video. In order to make sure that before you UV unwrap that your object scale has been applied. So scale over here in Blender equals 1. If it's not, just select the object, go to Object, Apply, Scale. Okay, so make sure that this is all ones. You're really going to want that. All right, now let's go into the UV editing and hit A. Okay, so in layout, you've already selected your object. And then you go to UV editing. The object is selected right here, over here. It's not selected, but it's active. So if you hit A to select all the polygons, here let's go to Polygon Select. Hit A. All the polygons are orange. Now I'm hitting period on the number pad to focus to the selected set. And then we just zoom into our door shed, kind of like this. And make sure that your viewport shading is turned on. Okay, so you can see what it actually looks like. Then it's time to UV unwrap. By default, if you'll notice, it's not UV unwrapped. We have this weird looking shape. So I want my UV map to look correct. So over in the viewport shade view, go to UV and do Smart UV Project. And I always turn off stretch to boundaries because I don't want any distortion. I want the aspect ratio to be correct. So I make sure correct aspect ratio and uncheck stretch, hit OK. Then your surfaces, your faces of your objects show up in the UV editor over here. Okay, now it's turned to the side. So I need to rotate that so it's in its correct orientation. So I will hit A over on this side to select all the polygons, R for rotate, and 90 degrees. It may be negative 90, might be positive 90. You got a 50-50 chance of getting it right, okay? And then I'm just gonna hit G, X, and just move that over. Hold my shift to fine tune my move and just kind of put it in the middle there. All right, so now our UV unwrapping is done. And once you UV unwrap a map, an object, it's done. You don't need to do any more. Okay, now there might be some adjustments and stuff, and you're going to see those here in a second. Okay, so we have our UV mapping done. Now it's time to apply those textures. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to open up Krita, open up Krita, and we are going to open a file, and I'm going to go where I'm going to navigate over to where I have my texture, and I'm going to choose which one do I want? I want the roughness. So I'm going to select roughness and hit open. And that's going to open up our roughness layer inside of Krita. All right. Okay, so with the roughness map open up in Krita, it will bring it in the layer name. If you open up a file, the layer name is going to be background. Okay. Now let's right click background and look at the properties. This particular image, this layer, this PBR, has channels, the active channels of blue, green, red, and an alpha. All right. Now, I'm going to cancel here for a second, and we're going to go into Blender, and we're going to come over here to our textures, and we're going to enable our MSFS standard down here on the MSFS material params. Okay, so we have standard enabled, and you're going to notice that it has an albedo layer, which is the color. It has the metallic port or slot, and the metallic is made up of the ambient occlusion, the roughness, and the metallic. And you notice that it's red, green, and blue. All right, so the roughness should be on the green channel. Okay, the ambient occlusion needs to be on the red channel, and your metallicness of your object needs to be in the blue channel. Okay, and it's always going to, in our case, it's always going to have an alpha channel. So we'll assign the alpha channel to our original image that we brought in. Okay, now we'll talk about these other slots later. Okay, but let's concentrate on first. We want an albedo. Okay, all right, so we want some kind of color to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Krita, and we are going to create a new image. Now this right now we have the roughness image on, but in Krita you can have more than one image open at a time. So we're going to go to File and New, and brings up the new panel. Since our base image is 2K, I want my new image to be 2K, so I entered a 2048 here and a 2848 here. Now by default, Krita will have the resolution set to 300 dpi. But for your textures, you can make that lower because the 300 dpi is for print quality, not on the computer. So you're good with 72. All right. You want to make sure that the depth is set to 16-bit integer channel. Okay. Remember, it needs to be 16-bit, and you want sRGB for the color set. All right. So we have this new layer, and we hit create, and you notice that we have our original roughness over here, and we have our new image over here. Okay. Now you can turn off your base channel, your background, because it's always going to have a background channel. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hit the rectangle select tool, and I'm just going to make a box around the whole thing, just like that. And then I'm going to add a new layer. Okay, I'm going to add a new layer, so I'm going to go to Layer, New Paint Layer, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this White. Okay. All right, with that active layer selected, I'm going to change my active color to white, hit OK, and then I'm going to come down here to my paint bucket with my white layer selected, my opaqueness at 100%. I'm just going to fill that spot. Okay. And then I'm going to come up to select, and I'm going to deselect so I don't have that selection box around it anymore. So now I have a white layer. Now, I might have done something extra here. Actually, I know I did. But I just want to show you how you can create a white layer. All right. Now, if you notice, this looks just like it did when we first created our image. Okay, it looked like a white box, right? So if I turn off white and come down to background, it's white as well. Okay, so you can use the original look. You wouldn't have had to create a new layer like I just did unless you are actually creating a layer of a different color. All right, but even though I did a white layer, I went ahead and created a new layer anyway. Okay, but you don't have to do that if you're going to use the default color that comes up. All right, so since I did, I'm going to turn the background off, and the background is transparent. And let's turn our white layer back on. Let's say we wanted a green layer for Albedo. Okay, let's come up to layer, hit new layer, and it adds a new layer right here. Double click on that, and let's call that green. Now we're working with Albedo. Okay, we're not working with roughness yet. Okay, we'll come back to that. We're just setting up an Albedo color. All right, so we have a new layer called green. Now let's make a selection box around that whole thing. And come up here to our active color. And let's select a forest green. That looks good to me. Okay, opaque. Make sure green layer is selected. Hit our fill bucket and fill that with that green. Okay, come up to select, deselect. All right. So now we have a green layer. If I turn that off, we have our white layer, right? Okay. So you can set up a Krita project for Albedos, and then you can have make each layer a different color. And then when you want to export this out to a PNG, you just turn off the layers that are irrelevant. Okay, so if I want a white Albedo layer of 2K, all right, I just make sure that my Albedo, the white Albedo layer is selected. And then I'm just going to come up here, and if you want to save this as a Krita file so you can come back and make changes to it, you'll just do a file, save, okay, and Krita has a extension of KRA, and then you save that to where you want. Now I'm not going to save it in this case, but when you want to create your actual PNG file, you don't do a save. You'll come up to File, Export, find the location that you want to save that image into, and give it a name. So we're just going to call this White Albedo. Okay, so I'm creating a PNG file called White Albedo, and I'm saving it into my corrugated metal folder for now, and then hit save, and then it'll ask you to, what kind of compression that you want. Now if you wanted the green albedo, okay, with the same open, you can turn off the white and turn off the green, okay, and then come up to File, Export. Now in the same directory that we were before, we can call it green albedo, or call it whatever you want, just as long as you remember what you called it, right? So now I have green albedo, and hit save, and then whatever compression that you want, click OK. So if we go into that directory where we have our images now, we now have a green albedo and a white albedo. Now if you noticed over here, a long time ago I created a brown albedo layer, or brown base layer, same base color layer. Notice that it has stripes in it, is because I basically took this one, this default base color, brought it into Krita, and I painted brown. But you don't need to do that. You can just have a solid color like this. All right, you don't have to have all the different lines, because when we start building our layer, our PBR in Blender, it will take into consideration all these other underlying layers to give us our little stripes, and you'll see that here in a second. Okay, minimize that. Now we're back in Blender. So we've created an albedo layer. All right, so for now let's minimize our Krita and go into Blender, and I'm going to show you, now that we have a white and a green albedo layer, we can come over here to our MSFS standard and drop down to albedo, click open, and navigate over to where you have your layer. Okay, and I have my layers in here. Now you're going to want these in your building texture, in your model lib texture directory when you're actually doing your building, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel this here real quick. I'm going to bring up my Windows Explorer, and I am going to copy these two into where I actually have my my model lib. So I'm going to go to my Akron, and I'm going to go to the buildings. I'm going to go into package sources, go into my model lib, and there's my texture directory. So I'm going to copy this, the green one and the white one, and I'm just going to right click those and drop those into my model lib texture folder. So I'm going to copy those there. Okay, reason I copied them there is if I end up actually really using them, I want them already in this directory. I could have just applied the textures based on my main texture folder, but when I build my project for Microsoft Flight Simulator, I want it to be exactly where it's supposed to be. So that's why I put them in my model lib texture directory. Okay. So I got copies there. So let's minimize that. Now let's come over here in Blender, go to Albedo, click open. You're going to get the open dialog, and then you're going to migrate over to the directory that you have your model in. So I've used it before, that's why it shows up in the tree. And if I come down to the G's, you'll notice there's that green albedo, and then if I come down, you're going to see the white albedo PNG. Okay, so they're in that directory, but I want white, so we're going to click the white PNG and hit open. Now you're not going to see anything dramatic, okay? It's just a white color applied to this wall, okay? Now, we don't have a sense of scale yet for the texture because there's nothing that's given us that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in the 3D feel of it based on that normal texture, okay? So I want my ribs of my steel to show up, okay? So if we come over here to our texture maps in Blender and come down to where it says normal, click open. In the dialog box, you're going to migrate over to where you have your textures. And since over here I don't have my corrugated metal 2, do I? Is that the same one? I can't remember. I think it is. Let me see here. Corrugated metal panel 2 2K. That's what it says. Yeah, so I did copy them over before. Okay, so I have my normal already in that directory, which is good. So I'm going to click normal, open image, and now you can barely see some light reflecting in different directions, right? Plus you get all the screw heads, all right? And in real life, metal roofs don't have these kind of fixtures. They're usually a hex bolt now, okay? Not a Phillips screwdriver, all right? Old time they might have been, but not anymore. They're usually hex shaped now. Okay, anyway, I digress. So you can subtly see that we have some texture to our ribbed roof, but it's just not to scale. So come over here on the left side in the UV editing screen. This is the shading viewport. This is the UV editor over here. So hit A to make sure all those polygons are selected, and then hit S to scale. And scale, looking at the right panel, you're going to see, you can see those ribs, right? Okay, now I'm not going to get the scale perfect for this exercise. It's just showing you how it looks. All right, so we've scaled our texture to give us the appearance of the ribs of our corrugated steel. But you're going to notice that some of ours polygons are not oriented correctly. See, these ribs are going perpendicular to the ones that are in the front of our door shed, right? That's not hard to deal with. So make sure your polygon select and select your polygon in your view shader, okay? And then if you come over to the UV editor, you'll see that those polygons that you selected are highlighted and all those other polygons are gone. They're not gone, they're still there, but they're not selected, okay? Now you want to rotate these so the ribs are consistent with the rest of the building. So with these three selected, hit R, rotate 90. You don't want to rotate in this screen because it will actually rotate your model, all right? Make sure that you're only in the UV editor and rotating the actual faces on the image. Okay, does that make sense? I hope you saw that. So don't rotate over here on the right side, rotate on the left. Now notice that our ribs are now going in the correct direction. Now you might have some other polygons in your model that also need rotated. Okay, so we got this one, and notice that they're showing up on the left now. And holding my shift key, I select this one. Okay, so that one's there. All right, so if I zoom out, you'll see them select. All right, and I might have some other ones, so I'm going to rotate my model over. And notice that the inside of the recess of our hangar doors, so I'm going to hold shift, select that polygon, and there they show up. And this one, I'm holding shift in, selecting these polygons as well. Okay, so I might be missing a couple more. I don't know. I think, yeah, that one's gonna. These are gonna be textured with our door itself. All right, so we got those selected, and then with those selected, we can come over here to the UV editor, R for rotate 90 degrees, and now they're all standing up in the correct orientation, right? Okay, let's double check that. Yep. Now they may not be the exact same, all of them may not be the exact dimensions between the ribs, but I'm just kind of giving you that that look and feel of how you can manipulate the different faces. Okay, now if you wanted to scale everything, if you didn't think that the distance between the ribs were correct yet, you can hit A, select all your polygons again, and I hit A in the right side. To come in the left side, hit S, and you can do further scaling like this. Okay? Plus, if you're doing like a brick pattern, you wanted to line up the mortar joints on the corners, you can actually select the polygons that you want to move up and down, and you can hit G, Y, and slide these up and down to make sure that seams show up, grout joints, mortar joints, they line up on the corners if you wanted to. Okay, so you can, I'll give you an example. We'll select this polygon, and if I come over to the UV editor and hit G, I can move it anywhere that I want, and you'll see the corresponding movement in the right screen. All right, so if I did GY, I can only move it up and down. Of course, over in the right side, it doesn't look like it's moving because the lines are vertical and you're sliding vertical, so it doesn't make any change. But if you don't want to do that, just hit escape. All right, so over in the right side, I'm going to hit A again, select everything. All right, so that's how you apply that first part of the texture, and that gives us the look and feel of the actual ribs themselves. But if we go into layout, it still doesn't look truly three-dimensional. Okay, we have a sense of three-dimensional because of some shadow. Okay, but it doesn't give you that real 3D look yet. Okay, in order to do that, we need to start applying in our materials the ambient occlusion, the roughness, and the metallic. Okay, and that's what we're going to get ready to do in Krita next. Okay, I had to stop for lunch. All right, so we're back. What was I doing? Oh, okay, so we applied both the Albedo and the normals to give us that sort of three-dimensional look. It's not perfect. It's not what we really, really want. But you can tell that screw heads, they don't really look three-dimensional, and the ribs don't look three-dimensional. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding extra layers to our plugs over here, our sockets, as I call them, over here in the MSFS parameters. All right, but what we need to do is go into Krita and make some changes here and there, okay, for the textures so they work out right. So you remember we created the Albedo layer. We created one white and one green. And I'm going to, even though this hangar's not green, I'm going to show you what that does. So if I go into here and I get rid of the white Albedo, hit X, make that layer go away, you can still see the stripes of the normals, right? It doesn't look any different than it did before. But if I come over to the Albedo and I select that green Albedo layer that I did by clicking green Albedo PNG and open, you'll notice that it applies a green color. Now, I'm not concerned about the rest of the building. It's just I just didn't have things selected correctly. These have the same material, okay? But you notice that you can still see underneath, based on the normals, that it kind of still gives that appearance of 3 dimensions, okay? But it should get better with the next steps. So let's get rid of the green and go back to the white, just so we stay consistent. White's all the way at the bottom. White Albedo. Okay, so now we have our white. It's brighter than it was, okay? Now let's go into Krita and do some texture stuff. So we have Krita open, and I'm on my colored image, so I'm going to select my roughness image. Okay, now, previous tutorials, even when I was learning how to do this, the instructors would tell us to download a PBR image and take the roughness PNG and plug it into the metallic slot. Okay, that was the norm back when the simulator first came out. Okay, was just take that roughness layer and plug it into the metallic slot. For a lot of cases that work just fine. I mean, it looks okay, but it's not accurate. All right, and the reason is, if you remember that the metallic plugin, the metallic socket, has ambient occlusion in the red channel, roughness to the green channel, and metallic to the blue channel. Remember that? Okay, when you download these images for PBR texture, now let me open Krita. All right, here we have the roughness PNG opened up in Krita. All right, if we right-click background and go to properties, you're going to notice that active channels, blue, green, red, and alpha, are all checkmarked. They're all being mapped. Okay, what does this tell me? Now, knowing that red is ambient occlusion, green is roughness, and blue is metallic, what this is telling me is that this one roughness image is being mapped basically 3 times. One to the red, one to the green, one to the blue. So that means any variations in the grayscale are being used for 3 different purposes at the same time, okay, which can give you unexpected results. What we want to do is isolate the roughness only to the green channel. We want to isolate the ambient occlusion only to the red channel and metallic only to the blue, okay? Now, you can do this in Krita, all right? So, we're going to make a new roughness, and when I export it out, I'm just going to call it R, okay? I mean, corrugated panel 2, 2K R, so I don't confuse it with my original roughness, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the blue and the red. I'm going to leave the alpha channel, okay? Because if I turn off the alpha channel, the whole thing gets put into, I don't want to confuse you. I'm just going to leave the alpha channel on this particular layer, okay? So let's turn that on. Now notice that our image is green, only because we're showing the green channel. It's still in grayscale, but since we have green channel selected, it shows it in green. Okay, so we're going to hit OK. And what we're going to do is now our roughness is only mapped to the green channel. And I'm going to export this out, File, Export, and I'm going to go to our model texture directory. Sorry if it takes so long. It's way down deep. Okay, so here is my texture directory, and we are just going to, since I already have this particular texture in this directory, it's right here, okay? I don't want to ruin this one, so I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to get rid of this part and keep the R for roughness, and we'll go ahead and delete that, and then we're going to export this out. I'm accepting the compression. All right, so now we have a roughness channel. Okay, so let's go into, now you're not going to see, I'll tell you right now, you're not going to see anything dramatic right away, okay? But we're going to go into Blender, and I'm going to come over to the roughness, okay, the metallic, and I'm going to open that new green channel roughness texture that we just created. So I'm going to come down here, and there's the one with the R. Click that and hit OK. Now, you don't, like I said, you don't see anything dramatic right now because it's only a roughness layer. Okay, so now we have the albedo, which is white, we have a roughness, and we have a normal. Okay, but the roughness needs more information. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create an ambient occlusion mapped to the red channel. Okay, and by the way, every time by the way, we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's go back into Krita. Now, this image that we exported out is the green channel for roughness. Now, what we want to do is we want to add a red channel for ambient occlusion. Okay, you with me? And they're going to be in the same image. But first, we need to open our ambient occlusion, into its own image. So here's our ambient occlusion. We're going to open that up, and it's a separate image, okay, right here. All right, so we have our albedo image that we created. We have the roughness that we're working on, okay, and we're going to add in the ambient occlusion, which are shadows, right? And these are going to be placed in the red channel of this image. Okay, so right now we just have a green channel. So what we need to do is we need to make a copy of the ambient occlusion and paste it into this project. Okay, now how you do that is really simple. If they're both the same resolution, which they are, they're both 2K. So let's go to the ambient occlusion, and we're going to do a Control A. Notice how it puts a selection box around the whole thing. And then we're going to do a Control C to copy that to the clipboard. We're going to come back into our roughness. We're calling it a roughness right now because that's what we have. Okay, we're going to come back to our roughness project. Okay, and when I hit Control V, it will automatically create a new layer. So let's do a Control V. Now in this project right here, we have two layers. We have the ambient occlusion and we have the green. All right, but we need to make an edit to the AO. We'll call it AO. So let's call this layer AO so we know ambient occlusion. Okay, right click the properties. Remember, ambient occlusion only gets written to the red channel. So I'm going to turn off the blue channel. I'm going to turn off the green channel. Okay, I'm going to leave the alpha and hit OK. Now, there comes a point when you can turn off the alpha, but I want to make sure. Let me see what happens when I turn off the alpha. Can't quite remember. I think we'll be okay turning the alpha off on this one because we have an alpha on the background. Okay, we can rename background to roughness. We'll call it rough. Okay. All right. So background I just renamed to rough. All right. So now ambient occlusion properties, it's only on the red channel now. Okay. So hit OK. Now, if I export this out, which we're going to, we want both of these turned on. AO will get mapped to the red channel. Roughness will be mapped to the green channel. And there won't be a metallic layer. Okay, we'll do that next. All right, so let's do a file, export, and make sure that we're in our package sources model lib texture directory, which I am. And we're going to, the last one we did, we called just R. So here we're going to call this AOR for ambient occlusion and roughness only. Okay, and see what it looks like without a metallic layer. All right, so let's export this out as a PNG. Save, accept your compressions. Let's minimize Krita and come over to this slot, this metallic slot, and get rid of our R that we did in the previous one. Hit X, and let's open and bring in our new created AOR layer, which is down here a little bit. AOR right here, and click Open Image. Okay, again, nothing too fancy, right? Okay. It looks a little bit more 3D than it did before. Okay, just a little bit. Now we're going to add that metallic layer, and that metallic layer is going to put either a sheen or not a sheen, a shine to it. All right. So let's go back into Krita and create our third layer in the blue channel. Okay, so this particular project right here, it's the original name of the first image that we brought in, but that's okay. We're not saving, we're exporting out. All right, so we're going to add, we have a red channel and we have a green. Now we need a blue channel, and that is metallic, right? All right, so what we're going to do is we don't have a metallic image for this particular texture. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Layer, add a new layer, and it's just a simple paint layer. And I'm going to call this M for metallic and S for shiny to make it glossy, okay, shiny. All right, and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to select that layer, and I'm going to just zoom out just a bit, make a selection box around our whole image. Okay, now I want it to shine really, really bright. Okay, so I need to paint it white. So we're going to come up here to our color, select our active color, choose white, hit OK. Now with MS layer selected, go to your drop bucket and paint that entire layer white. Not to be confused with a Albedo layer, because we're going to make another change. Okay, so select our active tool, come to this layer, right click, go to properties, turn all your channels off except for the blue. Okay, so now it kind of looks, in a way, it kind of resembles the normal layer, but it's not the same thing. Okay, so we turned off everything but the blue, hit OK. So now we have a blue channel, a red channel, and a green channel. All right, and we can turn off our selection, deselect, so that goes away. So now we have 3 channels plus the alpha. So let's export this out again. File, export, and let's call this one AOR for ambient occlusion and roughness plus metallic, and then I'm going to put a small s at the end for shiny, and then I'm going to click save and accept the compression. Okay, minimize that. Let's go back into our project and remove AOR from the metallic slot, and let's add in the new one that we just created, which is AORMS down here. AORMS right there, and click open. Notice what it does. It adds a lot of shininess to that material. Okay, now I'm getting confused with the doors, so I'm going to select the doors real quick and select the walls, and we're going to get rid of that material from being that. Oh, I didn't give the material a name, that's why. That's okay, never mind, forget what I was just doing. So we added in the metallic, but the problem with a white metallic, it fades out our albedo layer. So now our steel looks silver, okay, like it's not painted white at all. The worst color to model in the sim is white, okay, because it looks more gray, so you have to be really careful. However, if I come over here to our materials down here, and let's see what happens when we change the albedo color to the green. So I'm going to get rid of get rid of the white, okay, which looks exactly the same. I'm going to go to Open, and I'm going to choose the green albedo, which is, which is right here. Click green albedo, Open Image. Now, since it's not white, it doesn't look silver anymore, right? But it is shiny. Okay. Now, since we have a real dark green, it doesn't shine as much, okay? But you can see this, you can see the light shining off of the steel more, all right? Because it's not white, okay? Now, let's go back to our white albedo. So let's get rid of the green albedo and open the white albedo again. And you're not going to see much of a change because remember, white gets saturated out so much, okay? And let's come down here at the bottom, choose our white albedo, okay? So it lightens it a little bit, but we lose our white, okay? White is a terrible color to model. It really is, okay? All right, so this is what our siding would look like based on 100% shininess of our metallic layer. It would look silver even though it's white, okay, because the white gets washed out. Now, let's go into Krita and make an adjustment to our metallic layer. Well, we don't need to change the metallic layer. Let's keep that, but let's turn this off and let's add a new layer, paint layer, and let's call this one MF, small f, for flat, no shininess whatsoever, okay? All right, so hit enter. Now let's create another selection box around here. You don't have to keep deleting the selection and re-adding it. You can use it over and over, but I'm just showing you the repetitive motion so you can understand how to paint, okay? All right, so in this MF, which is going to be the metallic but flat, flat needs to be black, all right? So with that selected, come over to your selected color and choose black and OK. And then use your paint bucket and drop black into that layer. Now, since we have not called this a blue channel, it looks black, right? So let's go to MF, right-click Properties, and turn everything off except for the blue channel. Blue is metallic, remember? And click OK. And let's export this one out to AORMS, okay? And then hit save, do the compression. Now let's go back into into Blender and remove our AORMS and open the MF version of it. So we go into the textures, come down here, find our MF, which is right here, click open. Now we get our white back, right? But we're still losing that three-dimensional aspect to it because it's flat colored. There's no shininess. So what we want to do is we want something kind of in between shininess and flatness, okay? So how you do that is we're going to create a different layer, okay, for the metallic. Go back into Krita and let's turn off MF and let's add in a new layer, new, paint, and let's call this one MM for kind of medium shiny, all right? So let's call this MM. Hit enter, and let's go ahead and with that layer selected, let's go to our colors and see, I already have my selection box still there. So like I said, you don't have to get rid of it. Let's choose something that's right in the middle. Okay, it's not completely shiny and it's not completely flat. It's somewhere in the middle. Click OK. So it's gray. All right. Then we're going to use our paint bucket and we're going to drop a gray color in there. All right. Now what we need to do again is turn off all the layers except for the blue. So I'm going to right click, Properties, turn off everything but the blue, hit OK. And then I'm going to export this one out to, let's make this easy so I don't have to type so much. Let's come down to the last previous one we did was F, and let's change the F at the end to an M for medium. Hit OK. Compression. Minimize Krita, come back into Blender, go to your metallic layer, get rid of the flat one, open, and let's bring in the medium one, which is right here, open image. Now it looks more 3D. Okay? Like I said, white is the hardest color to work with, because it gets so saturated, okay? But it looks a little gray. It's not exactly perfect white, but it gives you the shininess to give you that 3D appearance, okay? So we've played around in Krita. We've played around with different layers, okay, to kind of give us different gradients of shining and see what looks the best and all that kind of stuff. And the shininess was controlled by the metallic layer or the blue channel, right? Okay, now, in my experience, I would want to save this project as a Krita file. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to, with the roughness PNG, if I did a save now, it'd save it over that, and I don't want to do that. But I want to create a Krita file, so if I need to make changes, I can open this in Krita and make my changes just like I'm doing, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a save as, and in my texture directory, I'm going to save it as a Krita file. So I'm going to come up here and choose KRA. And I'll just leave roughness as the name for now. It's okay. And then hit save. So now I have a Krita file instead of a PNG. All right. But my exports still work the same. As soon as I get it to look the way I want, I do a file export as a PNG. Okay. Now, let's go back into our model one more time. And we want to put some imperfections on our steel siding, because unless it's brand new, it's not going to look like this. All right. So if you remember when we put the smudges on our roof, now we're going to add a PBR, basically kind of like a PBR layer that accomplishes the same thing, okay? To take some of the shininess off in areas, okay? So if that is going to be applied to the metallic layer, all right, we need to make a new metallic layer that is only the smudges. All right, so let's go back into Krita. And I'm going to open up a new file. Okay, so it's going to add it over here somewhere. So I'm going to go File, Open. And I'm going to go look for my original smudges. And I think I know where that is. I just got to remember where I put it. Where did I put it? Okay, I think it's in... Where did I put it? Sorry. Let me pause until I find it. Okay, I thought that's where it was. Remember we downloaded an image called Smudges 01 in the last video? Okay, and I already put that in my model lib texture directory. All right, we're going to open this up in Krita, so I'm going to select that and open. Now this is a 4K image, not a 2K image, but it's not gonna hurt us any. All right, so matter of fact, going from bigger to smaller is easier than going from smaller to bigger because you don't have to rescale your image. Okay, so we have the Smudges image open in Krita, and we want to copy this over to this project. Okay, so we're going to select Smudges, do a Control A. That didn't work. Oh, I hit Shift A. I want to do a Control A so I have it all selected. Hit Control C to copy to the clipboard. Then go back into our Krita project for our images. And we're going to do a Control V. Again, it creates a new layer. And we're going to call this Smudge. Okay, hit Enter. Now we can, now it's it only brings in enough of the smudge to fit the 2K square. All right, so it basically cut this in only took 1/4 of the original image and placed it into this, okay, because of the size reduction, but the quality is still the same. All right, now anywhere in we're going to change this to a metallic layer. Metallic is blue channel, right? So let's go to Smudges layer, right click, properties, turn everything off except for the blue, and hit OK. Notice how our white smudges show up in places in our image. Now, we don't want to save the smudges out with all the rest of the layers. We want the smudges all by themselves on their own blue channel. With me? Okay, so let's turn off the selection. Well, we can just go to select, deselect. Okay, get rid of that. Let's turn off the metallic medium, the ambient occlusion, and the roughness. Okay, oop, I don't have an alpha channel, do I? So I want to right click. No, I don't need an alpha channel for this. I can't remember. Let's see what it looks like with an alpha and one without an alpha. All right. Yeah, it's all experimental, by the way. All right. So yeah, let's save this with an alpha. Hit OK. And I'm going to put an A at the end so I know that that has an alpha channel to it. Okay, I have all the other layers turned off, and this is only a blue channel. So I'm going to File, Export, and I'm going to, in my model lib, and I'm going to call this Smudge A. So I know I have an alpha channel, and I'm going to export that out. Now, where do I use this? All right, if you come down to details, you'll see a detail metallic. All right, that's where we're going to put the smudges. All right, so let's open and then go to our textures directory. Come down here until we find Smudge A and open. Notice how it puts those smudge marks into our siding. All right, and with a metallic that is white, white is not shiny. It's flat. So it takes the shininess off of where all of those white spots were in our texture. Okay, now I'm going to do one without the alpha. So let's go back into Krita. And basically let's take smudge A, right click, and duplicate that layer. So now we have a copy of it. And I'm going to get rid of the word copy of and get rid of the A. And I'm going to turn off smudge A so it looks the same right now. Okay, I'm going to right click, go to properties, and I'm going to turn off the alpha, and you're going to see it disappear on the screen, but it still saves out. Okay, it still saves out the imperfections. It just doesn't have an alpha channel. So we're going to do a file, export, and we're going to call this smudge with no A. So we'll call it smudge, no A, hit enter, accept the compression, and we're going to come down back into Blender, go down to the detail again for the roughness and metallic, get rid of the one that had an alpha channel, open, and we're going to select the one that does have the alpha channel and see if there's any difference. So smudge. Smudge does not have the alpha. That's what we're doing. So hit OK. And the only thing is that you get these striation marks that aren't good. Okay, so that's the difference between having an alpha channel and not. Okay, you might get some artifacts that you don't want. So in this case, this tells us that we want the one with an alpha channel. So I'm going to get rid of the one that doesn't and open the one that does. Texture, smudges, alpha, open, and there our stripes go away. All right, so we have just textured this wall. Now, to be honest with you, in my model, I probably won't have the smudges when I do my final version of it, because I don't like that look. It's too much. But you can create your own smudge layer by adding white patches. You can make your own image in Krita. Like, you can come into the smudge layer. Okay, that's the one without the alpha channel. Let's turn the one with the alpha channel on. But you can come in and you can make edits and put your smudges, your imperfections any way that you want, so it doesn't look so dramatic. That's just too much for me. I might want a little spot here, a little spot over here, some discoloration. So you work with your different layers in order to have them look the way that you want. Just remember, when you create, if you're working with ambient occlusion, which are shadows, so if you wanted to paint gray along overhangs and stuff and you wanted them to really show up, your ambient occlusion, your roughness, your metallic layer, they all need to be black and white, 16-bit, and sizes divisible by 4. All right, in this case a 2K. All right, but you can go in and create effects by just painting something in variations of gray to add in shadows, imperfections and stuff, and then save those to the channel that you want it to represent, such as ambient occlusion on red channel, roughness on green channel, and metallic on blue channel. So there was a lot of stuff to consider in this video, but I hope that this kind of gives you an idea how this works. You're just going to have to experiment, play around with those different ways of adding grays and stuff to the red channel, green channel, and blue channels, and just enjoy yourself and see if you can start creating different patterns and stuff. Like, for instance, you can go into the metallic layer and you can add a big long streak and make that shiny, and it will actually make it look like water is coming down the side of the wall or something like that. So just remember the principles of the 3 different channels, and that if you're working with the metallics, you're going to want it shades of gray, 16-bit, okay, and then map each different thing to a different channel. Does that make sense? I know this is a lot to take in. If you're confused, leave questions in the comments. If you do this a different way, hey, enlighten us. Bring your ideas to the table. But let's discuss what's going on. And the next video, we are going to add the Timken sign, show you how to do that. And we're going to also do glass. We're going to work with glass next time as well. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell for upcoming videos. And again, if you feel inclined to support me by buying me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld. You guys have a great day, and I will see you on the next video. See you later.